All right. We are here and ready to go. We are here. Ready to
Oh, that was nice. It echoed through again. It went through yours and then it was going to echo through again.
go. I just realized I forgot to mute my laptop, so I've just muted it. So hopefully that won't happen again. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Dunscap says, hi. Hi, Dunscap Jr. Does that mean that there's a Dunscap Senior? Why not says hello. Hello. Welcome to our little live chat that we do every week. Any question you have, we're willing to try and answer or say we don't know. How are you doing? Why not says, well, actually, this has been an interesting week for me from a magical perspective. Tuesday night, I had a major Kundalini center channel thing happen, which actually made my shoulder feel better afterwards, so that was kind of nice. My granddaughter saw a fairy in the backyard, smelled chocolate, and saw sparkles, so that's what we're pretty confident of. Had some interesting dreams. So yeah, it's just been an interesting kind of week. Dunscap says, I do have a question about the Fae. Do the Fae have kings and queens? I've been trying to find out. I think that they have different job descriptions and that humans might interpret them as that. I mean, there is some sort of a structure that I witnessed personally where, you know, bigger Fae were in charge of smaller Fae and trying to keep them on task and that kind of thing. I don't know that it's the extreme kind of level of stuff that some people work with, you know. I'm really not certain about that. Emerald Dawn says, hello everyone. Hi Emerald. Jacqueline says, looking beautiful, Siofra. Thank you. B says, your hair is really beautiful. I also love your necklace. Well, thank you for the necklace. I put this together Friday. It's an experiment. It's angelite and apatite, and I'm seeing if it can help improve my thyroid function. So I'm wearing it on purpose. Why Not says it was magical for me as well. I was in a bar I know something there out of nowhere appeared. Everyone you know appeared out of nowhere. Ah, synchronicities. We have that happen here too sometimes. Somebody you think about and you go in the grocery store and there they are. So it's kind of interesting when that happens. Dunscap says, okay, I just heard that they have queens and kings or rulers in like different kingdoms or something. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of misinformation out there about the Fae, so I try to keep an open mind. Certainly I have met what might be considered rulers. The She certainly seem to be a lot more intelligent and in charge and on top of things, for example. So it doesn't interfere with my ability to communicate with them, though, knowing it or not knowing it. Lul says, hi, missed last week. Glad to be here. Hi, Lul. He says hi, too. And he says, hi there, Siofra and Ian. Question, do you always have a live stream on Sundays? Yes, we do.
Unless something drastic happens.
Unless there's a reason for us not to, which we usually post on our community bulletin board on the YouTube channel to let people know. But so far, this year, actually, I think we haven't missed any in about a year at this point. So yeah, we like to check in with everybody and figure out, you know, see what people want to talk about and be here as a resource to answer questions. Because especially when you're first starting out, there's a lot of questions that people have, and having a reliable source to ask questions of seems like a good idea as a service to the community. So welcome. Maybe we'll see you at the next one too. So yeah, Joy says, hello, you mentioned you wrap your tools in silk. Does it matter about the color? No, not really, although we like to get color appropriate when possible. Like I made a color, a yellow color silk bag for my solar wand. But the color of the silk doesn't interfere with the function.
with the function of the silk, right? But it can appertain to a certain planet in that, and the spiritual beings, um, you know, if you had a Jupiter wand, you'd probably want to put it in blue silk, uh, but definitely keep it in silk. The best, I consider three of them universal colors. That's black, white, and violet, purple.
Yeah, because violet is a Akashic color, so it will work for any plane, any element, any planet.
But generally, the color is much less important than having silk to wrap your object in.
So Lewell says, my husband is having a second interview for a new job. We really want it. On the 16th, my birthday, by the way. Happy birthday to come. So do whatever you can to help him, please. Well, he has my best wishes, and hopefully all the universal forces are aligned and that this is the right job for him. So having it on your birthday seems like a good sign to me. I mean, that's how we knew Ian was going to get this job. His first interview was on my birthday. His second interview was on Valentine's Day. So when we got a letter saying he didn't get the job, I was quite shocked because I knew he had the job. And then later they gave him the job. So sometimes the signs are just there. Kenny says, I love that. Sundays are the worst for me, and talking with you all make it much better. Well, we're glad, because Sunday has not been my favorite day previously. So this is actually something we also look forward to.
Day of the sun.
That's right, Day of the Sun.
Whether it really is or not, it is now.
It's right. That's what it's supposed to be.
Yep.
And today it is sunny out where we are. So that's kind of nice. Ruth says, hi all. Hi, Ruth. Lewis says, we need them to offer good money for him too. Well, he should know that he's worth it. And Lewis says, hi, B. B says, I just started wrapping my head in silk when I'm feeling overwhelmed. It seems to really help. Yes, I've had to do that from time to time, and it does seem to help. So thank you for your video about it, Siofra, the one about psychic self-defense. Yeah, and it is one of those things that, as empaths especially, that we can do. Is that
Wow.
Jackie?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. We really appreciate your support. Canary says, hello, everyone. Why Not says, what about the hair and its meaning in magic? I have decided to shave, and I think that will help me to move on. And can I use it for my wands? Well, I don't see any reason why you couldn't use your hair for magical objects, wands, or anything else. I see no reason not to, because it's your personal energy. So it would be, you know, aside from blood, another good connection.
Yeah.
It doesn't require as much pain. Especially the way they do it in the movies. I cannot believe they always cut their palm in half. It's just like,
always the palm. Never.
What's wrong with a finger?
Never poke a finger to get a
What's
drip or
wrong
two of
with
blood.
a finger? But anyway.
They're gonna slice
Yes.
their palm open, so they can't do anything. It's always got to be their good hand too. Their
Their dominant hand,
hand.
or whatever. It's just yeah. And then I wonder, how long did it take before they could use that hand again? It makes no sense. So B says, sending good vibes your way, Lewell. Hope he gets the job. So do we. We'll send good vibes your way as well. Dunscap says, I also want to ask something, because in the past I have very bad experiences with casting spells because of me having anxiety and bad thoughts. Something bad always happens to me emotionally. So that sounds like you still have a lot of your personal work to do, like what we call shadow work. We are mostly our own worst enemy when it comes to magic. We undermine ourselves and our own power and ability, and that's how it happens. So you are, every time you do a spell, you now have an expectation that something will go wrong. So then you feed that into the spell while you're doing the spell, and then it happens, and then that reinforces your expectation.
Yeah,
so the next time it's worse.
And a little bit of advice, Barton says, if you can, once you've done it, you should stop thinking about it entirely as much as you can, so that you don't mingle it with extraneous thoughts.
Yeah, there's a lot of paths that say the same thing, is you plant it, walk away and forget it, because
Yeah,
know that it's
yeah.
done, that it's accomplished.
Yep.
Sometimes when things don't work in spell work, it's because you're doing the wrong kind of spell, and it's something that's against your best interest, but it doesn't sound like that is your specific issue from what you've said. So I would think, learning to trust yourselves and your instincts, and finding ways to reinforce the idea that you can succeed instead of undermining your own
Right.
power.
Yeah.
So Erin says hello. Hi, Erin. And Jacqueline added, love Ian's art. You didn't charge enough. Well, thank you. It looks like we're not going to be able to take his piece to the state fair. I'm going to call them tomorrow, because I was reading online through the application process, and apparently they want you to send it in like a month and a half before everything else. And so I'm just like, what?
Well,
So we might have to wait till next year to put it in.
that's okay. If you win something, I'll be happy.
Well, yeah, we'll both be happy no matter what, but I'm going to call him anyway and say, hey, he won first in his division. Why don't you want him? Does he have to prove himself more? But we'll see. So Kenny says, is there a possibility you can make a video on animal spirits? So when you say animal spirits, do you mean like power spirit animals, or just animals and their spirits and how you interact with them? Do they come back from the dead? That kind of thing? Give me a little more.
They're like the Native American.
Right, or totem
Power
animals, or
totem
power animals,
yeah.
or spirit animal. Yeah, there's a wide
Yeah.
range of subjects that are like umbrellaed
So
under
we're
that.
certainly willing to, if we have the knowledge needed for whatever you need to know there.
So Lava Moonchild says, you feel like a mermaid goddess today. Hope you are all feeling worthy of life today. Thank you. I used to think I was a mermaid. Well, I used to play with mermaids, and so, I kind of identified with them for a while. He says, right? Ha ha. Adam says, question. Is it true that a spirit can know what we are thinking? It's possible. It depends on your ability to control your own thoughts. You can block them if you want.
Yeah. And it depends on the spirit, because not all of them could read you anyway if they wanted to. There's just some spirits that are advanced enough to be able to do that. And certainly not all of them.
Eve says, hi. Hi, Eve. Lulu says, do you remember in one video you talked about octopus coming out for you? Yesterday in a zoo, sea lions were doing fantastic performances as I was talking to them. Not sure they did it for me specific. Oh, that's
cool.
Lovely. I love that. I like it. I was watching a video this morning of a guy who plays musical instruments, like he lives out in the country in his back field, and there's a fox that likes to listen to him play. And he's discovered that the fox likes the banjo the best and simple banjo the best. It's like, that's just so cool. It's awesome. Darlene says, hello. Hi, Darlene. Welcome. Moonfire Dawn says, you really have improved my Sundays. You look amazing, Siofra. Thank you. I decided to be sparkly today. I wore my little sparkle thingy. I was in the mood. Lulu says, specifically, but it was so much fun. I felt thrilled by them. Well, yeah, just enjoying their exuberance and their wonderful being in the moment, just being there and being who they are, what they are, without any kind of worry and concern and anxiety and self-doubt and second guessing. These are things we could learn from the animals to be, instead of thinking our way into oblivion. B says, that's so cool, Lul. I get the same feeling from insects at times. Don't know why, but it's super cool. B says, I hope someday I can have a similar experience with the zoo. Yeah, the ones I've had in the zoo included the octopus, an anteater. I think there was another one. The anteater was pretty cute. That was in Hawaii, and it was the middle of the day and it was hot. And I talked him into coming out and showing himself to me, and he did. He came out of his house and said, "Okay, is that enough? Can I go back in now?" And so then he did. But yeah. Aaliyah says, hello, everyone. Hi, Aaliyah. Lulu says, this was first time for me, B. Lava Moonchild says, my question is regarding Soul Tribe. I have connected with beings who I know are of this nature, and I can feel resistant to accepting I am not alone anymore because of how ostracized I felt. Well, there's nothing wrong with being, a little bit cautious when you're entering into a potential long-term relationship with a group of spirits. But yeah, I mean, for those of us who have suffered through serious trauma, trust is a huge thing, and it doesn't matter whether it's people or spirits. I mean, we have some of the same feelings about that. Laud says, hello, sending lots of love from the UK. Hi, Laud, thank you very much. B says, ooh, that's even more exciting. Jonathan says, hello, everyone. Hi, Jonathan. Canary says, hello, Jono. Moonfire Dawn says, great job on the last video, Ian. It hit right on some of the elemental stuff I've been guided to focus on.
Oh, thank you.
Kenny says, like totems, spirit animals, animals you feel a connection with depending on things like abundance, clarity, etc.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we can do that.
Dunscap says, do you work with demons? We have a video coming out about that, which should be this week coming out, that Ian and I did, because everyone asked that question, and we personally do not, and we explain why. Leah says, demons. Adam says, what does it mean when you are always thinking about a specific spirit? Could it mean that the spirit is also thinking about you? Well, if it's a spirit, certainly is a possibility. Or you're obsessing. I don't know. Leah says, I would think so, Adam.
Or it could be trying to get your attention in some fashion.
Right. Jonathan says,
yeah,
Jonathan says, hi, Canary. Hi, Adam. I was wondering if you would come back. Canary says, why is everyone on about demons? They can be interesting to research, but to work with? Well, that's our view. But somebody asked us if we would do one on our pagan perspective, since we don't come from a Christian background, as to why we do or do not find it a good idea. And so that's why we did the video.
To make a longer story short, there are too many other alternatives that aren't negative, beings that perform a negative job.
Right. I mean, if I have my pick of something that's warm, fuzzy, cute, pretty, and sparkles, and something that's like dark, foreboding, and wants to trick me, I know which way I'm going.
Yeah, I mean, there's just
it's just simple math.
there are better options. That's all. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in Western Hermetics about working with the demons of the Goetta, but I don't. I could, but no desire to, because I'd rather work with different hierarchies and things that aren't demons.
Yep.
They're not called such in Barden's book, but they're basically what other authors might call the angelic hierarchy that he lists that you can work with. Except that they're not really angels either, but they're the positive aspect of the negative hierarchy that you get with the Goetic demons.
So Lava Moonchild says, thank you. Adam says, what's your opinion on the Christian demonization of all pagan gods? I would see that it is practical to them, because turning every other religion and every other spirit being into a demon is a good way to control your population and keep them from delving into things that you don't want them to understand. Yeah. It's a control issue. Power over, which is the church is really good at.
Yep.
And they did that with the Fae as well. They demonized the Fae, turned them into working for Satan and so forth. They took pretty much every folktale and nature spirit and god or goddess form out there and turned them into some minions of Satan, because in the Christian worldview, or in the Abrahamic worldview, because it applies to all three of them, there's only two things. There's God and all of his good people, and then there's Satan and all of his bad people, and there's no room in between for anything else. And so from my experience, people that are working strictly with the Christian pantheon have a hard time accepting and understanding that there are different ways of interacting with and dealing with the world at large that do not include that specific dichotomy of, just good and bad kind of thing. There are other nuances
You know, it's
available.
like I'm going to use used this before. It's like mold. Mold is great when it's out there growing and reducing the environment to dirt and things like that. It has a useful purpose. It also turns into mushrooms, which people can pick and eat and take. But mold in your jello is not a good thing. So it's you know, because that's the job of mold is to deteriorate stuff, and that's like a negative being. Um, they have their perfectly ordained place in the universe, but it doesn't necessarily supposed to be with humans.
So Lula says we will have to move to the other side of the country for the job. It's the most exciting part of this job prospect. Don't like where we are now. Well, that sounds like a lot of adventure. B says, same, Siofra. I used to know someone who worked with demons, and they're not in a safe, mentally well place now. I feel sad for them, but it was their choice to work with them. Well, yeah, I mean, if somebody is not mentally balanced to start with, that would be a good way to, like, throw themselves
Really
off
throw
balance
yourself
completely.
off balance, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, choosing what you're going to do, what kind of a person you want to become, who you want to hang out with, who do you call friends? Think about that. You know, if you look in your family and the friends that you have, what kind of people do you want to hang out with? You want to hang out with the people that are supportive and are there when you need them, but aren't needy and aren't demanding, or do you want to come hang out with people who are trying to get you to do stuff that you know is bad for you? You know, because they're addicted to something and they want everyone else to be too.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think most people are just not really aware of the other hierarchies and stuff because Barton's books are not that well known.
so Canary says, Adam, you will get everyone here on a rant. Aaliyah says, wow, at B, I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, it is a sad thing. Vanessa V says, hello, everybody. Hi, Vanessa V. Nice to see you today. Adam says, Bob Larson has an exorcism video on almost every pagan god, so I don't know if it's real or fake. You can pretend to exorcise anything. It doesn't mean it's actually going to do anything. And since I don't worry about that, so far, all the gods and goddesses I've met are, how do you put this? We work together. We are not subservient.
Yeah.
We're not subservient to the gods and goddesses that we work with. We are partners, and partners don't possess you. So anyway, let's see. B says, thanks, Leah. I often think of her and hope she's doing better. Leah says at B, yes, let's hope she is somehow protected in the unseen. There's sometimes you see things like that happen, and you're powerless to do anything about it, because free will being what it is, people are free to do the wrong thing, apparently, whether it's good for them or not. Dunscap Jr. says, I wanted to work with or attempt to have a relationship with a demon in the future if they were willing. I heard that not all of them are out to harm people, but I don't know much about them.
Well, it's true that they're not out to harm people. That's a Christian version of the myth of demons, but they can be dangerous by accident. By a number of means. I guess I don't want to go into a bunch of detail on that, but they can be worked with. I have my problems with the normal magical way people work with demons because it leaves them open to a bunch of vulnerabilities.
So, he says, hearts. Canary says, there's not a lot you can learn from Christianity and the Bible, honestly. It's the least interesting religion, in my opinion.
Unless you want to look up some magic spells.
Especially black magic spells. There's a lot of those. B says, Junior, I would keep in mind that they are master manipulators. Be safe. Dunscap says, okay, thanks, B. B says, hearts, more hearts. And B says, oh, that's an interesting perspective, guys. Aaliyah says, it just always depends, really. Well, you know, being in your power, I mean, that's part of what this path is all about.
Yeah, it is. I don't want to talk about the Old Testament much, but just to give an example, there's one in there where a woman, if the husband doubts if the woman is faithful to him, he that as a priest takes some dust from the temple floor, put it in a drink, write basically a curse on a piece of paper, burn that, put that in the drink, make her drink it, and if she's been unfaithful, her crotch is supposed to rot out. And that's right in the Christian Bible. Tell me that isn't just flat out witchcraft.
And black magic.
Yes.
Cursing, hexing, serious cursing, actually.
And there's many more in there.
Yeah. So Violet says, "Hi, you guys. I am slicing and cooking while I listen. I'm careful and thoughtful not to he you in the future. It is something I did not think of for you when I write, not thinking." Okay. That made lots of no sense. Apparently, it's hard for you to type when you're slicing and dicing. So be careful and don't slice and dice
don't
yourself.
Slice anything that's not supposed to be sliced.
That's right. Vegetables and food products only. So stay safe. We're not reading Jonathan's comment because it's not about us, it's about somebody else. And everyone who wants to see it can see it right there, so no problem. He says, "Ha ha, I'm carving a staff right now myself. It's hard work." Yes. Sounds like a good time to carve a staff, though, when you're listening to a magical conversation.
Yep.
Lewis says, "Yeah, and apparently witchcraft is forbidden in the Bible. I know the irony of it all. But projection is huge when it comes to everything, and they're just as bad as everybody else." Adam says...
Never mind. I was just going to add to the point that that forbidden witchcraft was changed put in the Bible by King James translators. It wasn't originally in any of the manuscripts.
Well, there's so many of those different things, it's hard to
Yes.
keep up with them. So Adam says, "Question for both of you, may be a strange question, but have you ever seen a being that looks like a cyborg machine in the astral? They call them archons. If not, what do you know about it?" Well, if we haven't seen them, what would we know about it? We wouldn't know anything, and the answer is no. I haven't. So...
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, when you're a spirit being, you can look like anything you want, so maybe that's a thought form that somebody developed on an astral plane.
Yeah, it's hard to tell unless you've got good enough clairvoyance to tell whether it's an elemental or a larva or a thought form or exactly what you've got.
Maybe someone's writing a science fiction book and that's why they showed up.
That could be.
Because that's what happened when I fell into the comic book realm.
We have both run into Doctor Strange.
Yep.
And this was before the movies came out.
Mm-hmm. So B says, "Yes, carving also helps me ground myself." I bet that would very much do. Canary says, "People basically, witches for Jesus, think they can do everything we can, but it's the Holy Spirit, so it's completely different."
Yep. Very true.
Jonathan says, "Oh, sorry, Siofra, I didn't know that's your policy. I thought we do recommendations here. I won't do it again." No, that's fine for you to do recommendation. I just didn't see the point in reading it out
Reading
loud.
them out loud, yeah.
Adam says, "No, archons are a specific species of astral beings. Have you ever read the Gnostic literature?" Gnostic literature, that's Christian-based again, earlier Christian. Yeah. Long time ago, I read a lot of that kind of stuff, but I'm not interested in it, so I'm not reading it now. And it's, the things I'm interested in are the things I know about, and the things I'm not interested in, other people can be interested in, and you can get information from them. Canary says, "Dr. Strange? Oh, yes." We both have had encounters with him. Yes. I did a video about it on when I was doing long distance healing. It might have been, I can't remember which video it's in now, but I was doing a healing on a young girl who was about 1,000 miles away from me. And when I got there, she had an attachment that was like a thought form that she had created because she felt guilty about leaving her mother in London and running off with a soldier. And then her mother died in one of the bombings in London. And then she brought this thought form of her mother and the guilt with her. And then when she started going into puberty, it sort of manifested itself. She was having poltergeist-like activity and all sorts of things were going on. And so I went there And it might be in one of my psychic self-defense videos, because it was Dion Fortune's technique that I was using at the time. And when I arrived and, I saw the creature thingy and cut the cord, and then the astral form started spinning backwards like a balloon that just got all the air sucked out of it. And Dr. Strange appeared in the room with me at that point and put up the shield of the seraphim to protect us from that. And then I was like, I went, what? Why is Dr. Strange here? And I thought, well, he's not just a magical person, but he's also a doctor. And this girl has an ulcer, so he did the psychic surgery on her and cleaned her all out and everything. And then in the morning, her ulcer was gone. So I think it was my subconscious connecting with that, because I didn't feel yet that I was competent to do it myself.
Well, I definitely connected with an external entity that was Doctor Strange, and he was right out of the comic books, literally from the creators' minds and all the fans who believed in him from the comic books long before there was a movie. All those thought forms about him from reading the comics and things actually formed a simulacra of him.
Yeah, and actually if you read the earlier Strange comic books and you read the comment section or whatever where people write in, a lot of people actually encountered Doctor Strange under similar circumstances. So we weren't the only ones.
Yeah, those original early comics were most excellent for magical purposes and real mysticism.
They were definitely most excellent.
As much as they could.
Adam says, what do you mean, an artificially created spirit of Dr. Strange? I think we've covered that.
Yep.
He says, I think she talks about it in her long distance healing video. That could be the one. Oh! And Canary says, does anyone know who John Constantine is? He is a fictional exorcist mage. Apparently the people involved in the comics keep seeing him separately to each other in and around the same area. Undoubtedly, it's the same kind of thing. Because like when I fell into the comic world astral plane place, it was like all these superheroes. I fell into the superheroes one and supervillains, and they were all like talking to each other and trying out different fight scenes and scenarios and storylines to see which ones would fit to help their creators. That was really bizarre.
And by the way, Constantine is one of my favorite short series, the seven episode series they did of him. I think it was 7.
However many it was,
one
you liked
season, but I wish there was a lot more.
So Duns Cap said, I left, but I'm back now. Welcome. Lod says, I was wondering how, as an empath, do you cope with lingering thoughts and feelings that may be difficult to shake off? Grounding exercises and methods. I will use the cup transformation exercise that I put the video out on, and put those feelings into the cup and transform them to something I can use. I will do grounding exercises, laying on the ground, holding stones. As you get more experience with dealing with other people's feelings, you get a detachment. It's sort of like an overview kind of sense, where I can mostly see the feelings and know what they are, but I don't have to become them, which is much more pleasant for my body. And in cases of rare things like when 9/11 happened, and there was no way for me to avoid the intense emotional backlash from all of the people who live in this country, that's when I, used the silk wrapped around my head to try and help. So sometimes, if it's that big of a thing, you just have to try and ride it out. But know that it'll get better. The more experience you have with having that happen, going through it and getting past it and getting to a different place, the more confidence you build, knowing that these things are short-lived. They don't have to go on forever.
And that itself will help make them more short-lived.
So B says, I've connected with a fae who looked like Galadriel from The Lord of the Rings. I feel as if they come in many forms, ones we can understand. Well, she's a really wonderful, typical elven kind of fae creature, so it makes sense to me. I've met a few who look like that too. Buell says, do you think they existed before the authors wrote them down in the books?
I'm sure some of them did.
Maybe. And there's a thing that happens around the planet. It's like there'll be a sudden, like an invention. 3 different people who've never talked to each other, never had anything to do with one another, will suddenly come up with exactly the same invention at almost exactly the same time. And that is like, you know, the unconscious, the larger unconscious of the human race. So it could be that those things existed in some other form somewhere out there, and then the author just sort of picks on that form or that archetype or whatever, and then hones it down to be more specific. So sort of yes. Canary says, "Oh, I love that series." Oh, Vanessa V says, "Oh, that's so cool. I would love to meet quite a lot of fictional characters." Yeah. So Shay says, "Hello, everyone. Late but here. Hi, Shay." Lulu says, "Which came first, author's imagination or the characters themselves?" That's the question. Who knows for sure? Jonathan says, "Have you seen the villain in the new Doctor Strange as a witch? A powerful witch. I enjoyed it. That's the Scarlet Witch."
Yeah, she's great.
She is her own character. She has her own book and series and stuff like that that goes on. So, yeah. Ian says, "Hi, Shay." Canary says, "As a comic enthusiast, I will now be trying to astral project to the comic world. I may have to run to the house, dear, so you may have to take over for a minute.
What's going on? Okay.
I have a bathroom emergency, apparently.
Okay.
So we're switching.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to get in front of the camera.
Okay, he's going to talk to you over there.
So, all right, where were we at? There we go. That's true. The Scarlet Witch hasn't always been a villain. She wasn't in the previous series. Adam says, "Is there a YouTuber that states that almost all the astral beings are shapeshifters?" Or there is a YouTuber that states. He uses a special technique to reveal their true form. How do you know if an astral being is in their true form? Well, it depends on your magical authority. If you have any form of, well, everybody has natural magical authority. I know Siofra has talked about that before. Basically, if you have magical authority, they will show themselves in their true form. And it depends on the type of being, but they can't really hide what they are. I mean, if they're, for example, an elemental being, they'll appear like the element. So a fiery being will appear to be, fast and flickery like fire and moving. And so it depends on what you're looking at there. Shape shifting as an astral being is okay. What the shape is generally not as important to the aspect of a being as the other things like the color. I mean, things that will tie them to which element, things that will tell you what planetary energy they have. They'll have the appropriate colors and things. So a lot of the beings actually don't have a true form. They just take on one when they're dealing with humans. So yeah, hopefully everybody can hear me from this side okay. Well, and I don't know about a technique to make them reveal their true form, but if if you have, and one of the things I was going to deal with in my upcoming video is going to be the 4 color scales and things and how that relates and the correspondences that you can use with addition to the Tree of Life to find out things about different kind of beings and things and how they have to appear. So if you're a real magician and you have any type of natural magical authority, which most people do, they just need to know that they have it, then beings will generally have to appear to you in their right colors and forms and things that are representative. For example, if it's a thought form, that type of being, if it's a thought form of love, it may look like a bunch of hearts on the mental plane. Or if it's a thought form of anger, it may be very spiky and jagged. So, and the thought forms, yeah, those aren't so much beings, but they're as a type of larva in that sense. So anyway, all right. So how do you see the Fae? Is the way to alter your state of mind to see them, says Dunscap Jr. And yes, there is. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but it's you need to be silent and stop interpreting things like shapes and things through your mind. So you have to be quiet enough to let that stuff stop. And I usually get like a gray, foggy approach, like a fog is coming in. It seems like it's almost moving, roiling, bubbling up or something for me. And then I see through that to what I see on the other planes. So for me, it is a shift that goes through that particular stage, which is often associated with scrying things or crystal ball scrying. So there is a way to do it. I don't know exactly how to describe it. It just requires practice, and you just have to kind of learn how to do it. I don't know about the any more of that about the she. So I'm going to go past that, and TM asks, can you tell us more about planetary entities or if you had any experience with them? Several, but you have to kind of be prepared, and the closest planetary entities to get experience with are the ones of the zone girdling the Earth, or Malkuth. They're the easiest to contact. But I have definitely got in contact with a couple of them, a couple of elemental beings, and pardon me, and a couple of well, a Mercury being for sure, being of zone girdling the Earth, and basically you deal with them pretty much respectfully and like they were a person, and then they will generally be the same way to you. Again, like I say, and that was one of the things I don't like about everybody dealing with demons, because one of the ways you're supposed to punish the demon if if it doesn't comply with your wishes, and burn its seal over some stinking sulfur and asafoetida and some other stuff, things like that. So yeah, they aren't necessarily negative beings, but by the time you get through torturing them at the point of a sword, they're probably pissed off at you and do want to harm you. So yeah, the whole technique there is the problem. So yeah, and I'm glad you can hear Violet. Thank you. Technique that involved setting your intention with your heart chakra. Yeah, I'm not in particularly familiar with that specifically. All depends where you're coming from. Luell says, Vanessa V, that's what I've expected, because when I paint, I turn off my mind to let the hand do its thing, and that creates the best work. Agree completely. All right. And Jonathan says, we hear you, great Canary. I said she was the villain. I didn't say I don't like her. Canary says, I had an astral being that looked like a giant spider hang around for a while at one point. Didn't do anything, then just left after a few weeks. Strange. B says, haha, that's super cool, Canary, but I also love spiders, so yeah, I've had odd little encounters every now and then. I once had a big white horse astrally or mentally come up to me and sniffed me very carefully up and down, and they just wander away, and that was the end of that. No more, didn't have it come back again. So yeah, it's hard to tell about some of these things. But Dunscap Jr. says, that actually happens to me when I space out and be quiet. I start to see colors, and I always see like a weird fog type of thing that's always there and like moving around or flickering. Yeah, that's the start of it. If you can let yourself sink into that, then you can get some interesting stuff. I once had that happen, and it happened to be down at the beach, at the ocean, during a high tide and a full moon at night, which of course are all ideal for clairvoyance, and I didn't expect it at all, but I got a nice shot out of the acacia, um, and saw what the place was like down there with people milling around and stuff of like the 1920s or something like that, 1890s or sometime way back in the past with top hats and different things, and that was pretty cool. That's the only time I've ever, well, only the second time I've ever saw the past like that. But that was the most fascinating one because it was just like watching it on a movie screen. You have to excuse me, I'm having a hard time talking. I've had all my top teeth pulled in preparation for dentures, so this was unfortunate timing on Siofra's part. Uh, Canary says that B. I'm not overly keen myself. I didn't mind this guy hanging around though. And Luel says, forgot to share, have a Buddha head statue live with us now. Came from a thrift store a few weeks ago. We all hang out peacefully. Multiculturalism. Yes, I agree. We have a Buddha statue that stays with us that it had a living Buddha spirit in it from some temple somewhere before they cut it down and cut off its head. And so this is one of the ones that Siofra and another friend of ours helped to rescue from being trapped in a Buddha head, and now we've got a little Buddha statue here in our temple, and it seems perfectly happy. So that's cool. Vanessa says, Luel, cool. That happens to me when I write poetry. I think art is a complete form of magic. So wonderful that you paint. Yes, I agree it is. And you can really reach some real enlightenment through it. I think one of the major things is respecting your art and what you do, and respecting the tools that you make to do your art. I think that's can be very important to actually making your art be what you want it to be. And Canary says, it does. I see color fog when I'm trying to break into spirit realms. It's not often I get much further than that, though. Yeah, it doesn't so much take pushing through. It has to almost take sinking into the fog and seeing what's through it. You have a little of intention there, but you're not being pushy about it. You're kind of letting it come to you and see what you see. At least that's has been my experience so far. And Violet Star says, oh, you're doing a great job. Did they put you out to take them? No, they did not. But thank you for asking. Nope, just the old Novocaine they gave me. They said I had the legal limit of Novocaine at that point. So they took out just the top ones, and I still have my bottom teeth because they couldn't give me more Novocaine. I'm very, I have a high tolerance to things like that, so I take a lot of Novocaine and things. Jonathan, thank you. And Luel says, I used to write poetry as a child and teen, but when I moved countries and switched languages, I picked up painting as a form of creative expression. Yeah, and I think that's great. I think there's too little of that kind of stuff. I think painting and artwork is a real good opening into, and poetry and stuff of that nature too. It can be a real good opening into these spiritual realms. You just have to, yeah, let it unfold within you, and that's something I thought I never had any painting talent or any sort of art talent because I hadn't found my medium, but all of a sudden I found my medium of oil painting, and then I could make art. I tried drawing for years and wasn't quite happy with it. You can take over now.
Well, I don't know where we are.
At the bottom.
I have to get myself down here. Oh, cool. Buddha head statue. I missed that.
Yep.
So, was that personal genies or demons?
Huh? No, that was just Llewell said I used to write poetry as a child
Ah,
and teen, and I moved to countries and picked up painting as a form of creative expression. And
there he says, why would they cut off its head? Because they were evil. Military type people who wanted to destroy a religion and a religious artifact in order to make people in pain and be sorry.
yep,
Pretty much.
yep.
Ah, Lil says, Ian, me too. Dentists are always shocked by how difficult it is to numb me. Ah. Vanessa V says, I find it extremely difficult not to fall asleep when I enter that stage. Any advice?
Now we're talking about the fog stage before clairvoyant vision.
Ah, it is pretty easy to actually fall asleep during that stage. Practice is the only thing that works. It's like practicing staying completely and totally alert and completely and totally relaxed. It's kind of like,
I do have a recommendation for that though. I recommend some form of an asana, and what that means basically is you take up some position while sitting that requires just a slight amount of effort. You want your body to be as relaxed as possible, but you want to keep a slight amount of effort in staying balanced or something like that. Or, put your fingers out in that
in
thing.
this
Yeah.
position.
Something like that it keeps just enough awareness in your body. It helps you to stay awake and makes concentration much easier. That's my advice for you have
Cool.
a problem falling asleep.
All right.
And also,
Do it during the day.
well, yeah, and make sure I'd recommend doing it at the same time every day if you're going to do it on multiple days. And then you'll get used to staying awake at that time. Just make sure it doesn't become a habit of falling asleep. So if it does, then you should change up the time. So, yeah.
He says, ha, I had to leave because the file I was using to carve just snapped in half. I'm back now. Oh, good. We went together. Welcome back, Siofra. Thank you. This happened once before, and Ian wasn't here, and we had to just stop the show. So I'm glad he was here this time. It makes it much better. So TM says, can you tell us more about personal genies or demons, as in spirits? Do they stay with us during a whole human lifetime or longer? Or do some people don't have them?
Well, there's one, at least, pardon terms,
The higher guardian angel?
your guardian angel. And they are usually with us for a human lifetime. And then there's also a confusion with what I call the oversoul, which is not your guardian angel, but it gets confused a lot of times as being the same thing. And it's just there, period, whether you live or die or whatever.
Right. So I guess it depends. And I think everyone has something, but there also are ones that come and go. They don't have to just come and stay. They can be there for a period of time and then leave because they served the purpose that they were there for, that kind of thing. So Luna says, hey, Siofra and Ian. Wow, Siofra, love the new look. It really suits you and makes you look young. Thank you. I'm young at heart.
That's the important part.
I have a hard time with age because I can never tell how old people are because I don't look what the chronological age is supposed to look like, and we have a tendency as people to judge by what we know, and I am always wrong about how old people are because I can't tell. And then age doesn't make any difference to me. I have friends of all different ages I interact with, so yeah. Canary says, I've had family members destroy other people's statues, then say, you'll thank me if you ever get to heaven. Oh, well, yeah, they're going to be surprised when you don't, because, that's not where you're headed, right? So, that is a terrible thing, though. That's a hateful thing to do. And that sort of flies in the face of religious freedom, period. That's kind of against that whole notion. Dunscap says, when you are trying to see through the fog, do you need to stare or are you allowed to blink? I blink. I mean,
yeah, I do too.
Sometimes when you blink, it can make your eyes refocus and then you have to sort of try again. But after practice, the blinking doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think it's really important to relax during that phase myself, to relax your mind and stuff.
When I'm doing sky gazing, I blink all the time. And it doesn't it doesn't matter. Although there's an interesting effect when you don't blink for a long period of time, your eyes start making little movements like this.
Micro movements, yeah.
Yeah, micro movements. It happens a lot with stargazing. I think
And everything
my
seems like-
Ashley was thinking
Yep.
that the stars were moving,
Yeah.
and so they couldn't be stars because she was making
Yeah.
micro movements.
Yeah.
But that happens also when I'm seeing stuff, spirit, and then it comes into focus, and I see it, and then it starts to go like this, and then it like moves in a direction altogether, and then the next thing happens. So it's kind of interesting. Canary says at Dunce, I find it slightly lessens when I blink. Yeah. Vanessa V said, thank you. Wonderful advice. I'm assuming from you. You're welcome. He says, can guardian spirits follow one's soul through many lives? Yes, absolutely. I mean, my guardian spirit, Moida, she is, I'm sure, with me in all of my lives because of the connection that we have with her having been a part of her at some point until she decided to go up into the realm where you don't incarnate again. But then I fell back. She wasn't completely ready, all 100%. And I was the piece that stayed down, and she has been working with me through my lives because she feels responsible and connected, sort of like a grandmother in that sense. But Luna says, I can hear crows. Are they at your end or in my head?
We've had crows.
Did we have crows now calling?
Well,
I didn't notice them. But we do get them.
don't appear to you right this moment.
I had an interesting thing that happened during the week. I heard a songbird at night. I've never heard a songbird at night around here. And I was trying to figure out what kind of a bird it was. And the only thing I can think of is it must have been a thrush, because I think I know we have thrushes because we've seen them from time to time, and they do tend to sing at night. But it was really quite amazing to hear that melodious, very complex notes happening at a time when you're not expecting it. And that was the same night, I think, that some small hawk decided that my hair made the best nesting material and wanted to have my hair and was like taking pieces of hair and going to make a nest with them, a female hawk of some kind. And yeah, so that was
I
kind
don't know.
of.
That somehow seems like a positive sign to me, but I don't know what it means.
I don't either, but I think it means that they like me, and that's cool. I mean, if I make good nest material that I'm nurturing, right? You
Yeah.
know, is they're going to like make their young grow in
Yeah.
my hair? That seems like a positive
That's
image.
probably, yeah.
And I think it was that same morning I got the 4 knocks as I was waking up, just like one like that. And I looked it up. That was funny. So the meaning of 4 knocks ranges from you're doomed, the world is coming to an end, and the devil's about to get you, and there's nothing you can do about it, to you're balanced and everything is fine. So I decided nobody really knows the meaning of that, and I ignored the rest of it. So, anywho. So, let's see. Canary says, most of my guides sign off on me after a while. Not even many tell me that they're going. Rude. Or you
Yeah,
just move to a space where they're not available.
That's one thing about guides. They have a tendency to kind of do their own thing, and you're like, huh? Yeah. They're not, they can be, but not always so cooperative. They more like do things like they want to do, and you're like, huh?
Well, time doesn't
Or
work
tell
the
you
same
what they
way.
wanted. Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things that Moida made quite clear for her when I was doing the channeling. There was no gap for her between channeling sessions. There was a gap for me. So it could be one of those things too. Maybe they're coming back and you just don't know it, and they didn't say they were going because they were coming back. I don't know. So Angela says, hello, all blessings. How are you guys? Love your hair, Miss Siofra. Thank you very much. Apparently my hair is a hit. Luna says that Jonathan, hey, baby. And Jonathan says, hi, Luna. Krista says, you look lovely. Thank you. Luna says, when an exorcist casts out a demon, where does it go? Do they banish it?
I know. Do you know what they try to do when you've got an actual religious
Okay,
exorcist?
so
What they're
my understanding, when they're banishing a demon, they're sending it back to hell.
Okay.
So they are banishing it.
Banishing it. Yeah.
So that would be what that is. They would be banishing the spirit. But in order to do it, they have to know its true name. You know, there's that old
All that
mythology
stuff,
about
yeah.
having to know the true name of something to have power over it. So they get its real name, then they have power over it, then they can make it do what they want, that kind of thing. So, you know, it's, I'm assuming that that's what they do.
Yeah, I talked briefly about magical authority. Didn't really explain what it was. I just kind of talked about it.
Yeah, we did a whole video called Magical Authority. It was something else authority. Anyway, yes, we did a video about that.
Yep.
Knowing that you have that authority is one of the things that makes it possible to use.
Yeah.
So Lulu says, Siofra, people assume I am younger, equal less experienced than I am, used to it. Sometimes it's even fun. Oh, when I was younger, I walk into a bar and I have my ID and I'm pregnant. This was before they knew that drinking was bad for you when you were pregnant. And this guy carded me 3 times in the same bar. And I'm like, how many pregnant women are in here right now? They made me show him because he did not believe that I was 21. So yeah, it runs in the family that. Laud says, I'm just starting to read Barden's Initiation into Hermetics and wondered how the book may have impacted or influenced both you and Ian's lives. Well, considering the fact that we talk about it every week and we're using, I like using his second book, Magical Evocation, a lot, and we use that when we're looking up the names of beings and their descriptions and so forth. It certainly has impacted Ian's magical practice.
Yes. I use a majority of the techniques that I prefer to use come from Barden's books. But other than that, I'm going to take Barden's advice in his first book and not say anything more about my personal practice regarding that.
So Jonathan is very happy. He's got exploding fireworks and hearts and things for Laud using the book because he really likes the book. Angela says, maybe they like your nice protective energy. Maybe so. Lulu says, 4 knocks, Doctor Who. Yeah. Mine does that, B says. I just kind of accept it. Linda says, thanks, Siofra and Ian. Lulu says, personal authority. Thank you. That's what we called it. Not human authority or spiritual authority. Personal authority. I had a brain fart. Canary says, I feel so sorry for the amount of human spirits that haven't crossed over and probably just need some help, that they have been screamed at by priests and preachers. It's not funny.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree.
And I've been to places where that has happened, and you know, I'm like, I won't go do a paranormal investigation at a location where the people specifically said they don't want me crossing over any spirits that might be there. And I know a lot of people say not everyone wants to be crossed over, but so far in my experience, none of them have ever refused and to cross over. They had reasons why they were afraid to cross over, and I addressed those reasons and concerns, and then they were quite happy to cross over. So, you know, I think attitude makes a huge difference in how you approach them. And there is a group of kids here that kept going into the same place in a cemetery, like a mausoleum that was known to be haunted. And after they went into it like about 6 times or stuff, the spirits got very, very pissed. They were very angry and started making all kinds of racket to try and chase them out. And I'm like, yeah, well, how would you feel if you're just minding your own business? Somebody comes and says, hey, we're here to help. And they lied over and over and over again. And it's just teasing you because you really need the assistance. Yeah, I find it obnoxious. But, you know, Mary says, oh, B says, same thing happens to me. I get carded constantly. Canary says, oh, yes, I once got ID'd for scissors and they wouldn't give them. They wouldn't give you scissors? Okay. B says, also, Canary, I agree. My heart hurts for all those who never had a demon in the first place but were treated in that way. Well, yeah, because some of those things are so damaging psychologically to the people that end up going through them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being told that you're possessed by a demon and being forced into an exorcism.
And you know,
when all it is a different set of beliefs.
If you buy into that, that's scary as hell.
Yep.
I mean, that's a major deal psychologically for the person undergoing it.
Lulu says, I was 29 with a toddler in a grocery store, and some random woman started to lecture me about finishing high school before having children. I already had an MD degree by then. Oh my goodness. Boy, people are so fast to assume, aren't they? He says, oh my gosh, that's so rude. Why would one do that in the first place? Lulu says, a Karen before the term was invented. Indeed. Yeah. That's the thing that gets me, especially right now. It's like the veneer of civilization having completely and totally dissipated. People are just willing to say whatever stupid thought crosses their mind without any kind of filter whatsoever. And that kind of stuff is happening more all the time, where people just come up with their assumptions and start yelling at people. It's ridiculous.
That's true. It is. I'd like to counter the spread of that somehow. If there's get out something viral that's just positive for life.
Well, that's why I look for like positive, like nature things and stuff like that with videos and stuff. Like the guy who made friends with a shark. I mean, yeah, I'm hoping that this is true. I haven't been able to vet it.
Frightening.
But according to the story that I read, this Australian fisherman rescued a female great white shark because they're a protected species in Australia, and it got caught in his fishing net, and so he cut her loose, and then she bonded with him and started following him around the ocean, and then kept coming up to the boat, and he actually started petting her, scratching her head and her neck and stuff, and he says that she would make these sounds and noises and actually like pound, hit the water with her flipper. And I'm really hoping this is true. I'm going to have to vet it now, but the idea that we could bond with a non-human species and that species could recognize the kindness and the gesture of saving its life like that gives me hope for the universe, because we need to get out of this human-centric kind of thing we've got going. We really think we're way more important in the scheme of things than we actually are. So, yeah, Lulu says some don't have a life of their own, so they get into yours. Adam says, I posted this question above, but I wanted your perspective. What question?
That was the one I assume on, let me pop it back up here. Oh, where is it? I'm scrolling too fast, I can't see it now.
That was when I was gone.
Yeah. What was it? I just saw it a minute ago. Oh,
maybe you can repeat the question.
There was something about a technique that involves setting your intention with the heart chakra to it was about dealing with beings and a way to make them show their true shape, their true form.
Oh, that's again with the natural authority and with clear vision. That's it. They can show you any form they want because they don't have a body. But if you have true sight and you're looking at them in order to see what they really are, then you will see who they really are. And there's different clues that you can get, because there's their color, their smell if they have one. Like the fairies around here all smell quite lovely, and so they have lovely intentions. In fact, the first time I put this necklace on, when I made it, I got this burst of very complex floral notes that just overwhelmed me. So you can get information about what they think that way.
And every being has elemental attributes also, so even the highest beings have elemental attributes, so they'll have some of those that you can learn to recognize, such as earth for weight and heaviness and vulnerability, strength, those kind of things associated with earth,
The main thing is knowing yourself well enough to be able to tell the difference between being external to yourself and your own projection. That's the biggest place that people fail, because just about everybody, at least at some point, thinks that they're encountering an external being, and it's their own thought form that they created. And so then it's like a whole different ballgame. You're never going to see its true shape because you made it yourself, and it's going to be your fears, anxieties, or whatever, your suspicions, your guilts, what
And like
your hopes, your
I,
dreams.
yeah, I mentioned earlier that things show up in a mental plane as symbolic. So thought form of love might show up as a heart, and a thought form of anger might be like a lightning bolt or daggers or something like that.
Well, like when the Mercury being was talking to us, he spoke in all in symbolism. I mean, showing
Right.
me the string of pearls and then breaking them, which was obviously your sister's mind being broken, because thoughts are supposed to be strung together. A life is supposed to be a series of things in order, and then
Yeah.
some of them broken,
Yeah,
and then
well,
picking them up and putting them back together, but losing some in
that's
the
how it
process.
happens because when we interpret it as language, as our language, it isn't really, that's our interpretation of it. It's a series of concepts and images transmitted directly, has been my experience.
Okay, so Luna says, but there are no locks. Oh, this is the, I missed that part. Just found out that a kid's soft play center nearby is supposedly haunted. A few years back, myself and my daughter had individual experiences where we got locked into the bathroom there, but there are no locks on the external bathroom door, hand washing area. This is part of what the staff are reporting, in addition to knocking sounds. A friend knows the owner, so I'm hoping to go in and have a look. Any advice?
Interesting.
Okay, so I've been up against that with people calling me a gym slip kid mom and being ID'd for cigarettes age 32. Well, that's a random thing on the other side. Okay, so advice. Try not to have any assumptions when you go in, number one. If you have assumptions when you go in, it might be more difficult for you to figure out what's actually happening. So you try and keep an open mind. If you are surprised by the impressions that you get, that's a good sign. Because surprise means that it wasn't what you expected. Even if you're trying not to have expectations, a lot of times you have them without knowing it. And then when all of a sudden things are different, then
Yeah, there's
they're
a bit
different.
I always call it like a shock of contact myself because there's just something, that knows that this is not
Yeah.
internal.
And then the other thing is use your empathic abilities to find out what it feels like. It's like I've encountered the spirits I've encountered have been haunting places for various reasons. Anger is common, but the reasons are varied. Like, frustrated is another one that comes across a lot. Confused, lost, desperate. One of the earlier ones that when Shay and I first met each other, I did a case for her. Then the people that were in the house were having horrific nightmares, and all of the people in the house were having nightmares, and it was the spirit trying to talk to them, trying to get their attention. And since they weren't sensitive as they needed to be, I guess, for the spirit to communicate, the desperation and the attempt to communicate turned into nightmares for the people to try and get their attention. So don't assume that just because negative things happen, like getting locked in, could be because they're desperately hoping that you're going to stay and help them. It may not be like an adverse scenario, adversarial kind of thing. So try not to jump to conclusions. Sometimes it might turn out to be that, but try not to jump to conclusions when you go. And don't use your natural authority unless you actually need to. I've never actually had to use it when I'm doing a paranormal investigation. I've never had to force something to leave.
Yeah, most
I've
of the
always
time,
been able to figure out what it is and figure out what it needs in order to be able to go somewhere else where it's not bothering people.
Yeah, and if you really have it, it usually doesn't need to be pointed out to them. They'll recognize it. So, once you have it, it's just there.
Yeah. So I'll be interested to hear how that goes and what you end up with. Vanessa V said, I had the opposite experience. A woman in a restaurant thought that my dad was my husband. I felt so disturbed.
I can understand that. That would be
Again,
disturbing.
assumptions people make. Angela says, the Dew have excellent memories. They remember places of food and other sharks. Oh, when
right,
they
for
meet.
the guy. So yeah.
So her remembering him and doing all this wouldn't be impossible. They aren't stupid or bloodthirsty. They're just hungry and live in cold water. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the
It's their nature. Sort of the talking about demons. It's their
exactly.
nature.
It's their nature,
And
and
if they think you're food, that's not a good thing for
yeah,
you.
but they have a negative job they do, but that is not harassing people and stabbing them with pitchforks like the Bible portrays at all.
Okay, so Lulu says, sorry, phone correction, not MD, but only Master of Science in Biochemistry. Don't know how MD happened. It's still the same obnoxious, stupid thing that somebody said to you, though, regardless. But thank you for correcting it. B says, my gosh, my brother just got swarmed and stung by hornets. Send some good vibes his way. Oh, those guys are mean. Get some honey and put them on the stings right away. Raw honey. If you get this, I hope you do. Luna says, hello, Adam. Is that really you? Adam says, yes. Hey, Luna. Hope you are good. Angela says, hello, everyone. Wow, Siofra, you look nice today. I picked the right thing to wear today. Put in my hair. All right. TV movie says, hello, I have a question about memories. How can we remember a certain memory? Is there a way to remember? Much love. Memories are tricky because we rewrite them every time we remember them.
That's true. Basic thing is rehearsing them,
if they're written down, that can help.
Yeah. And just go through it. Keep it in your mind and check it every so often, and just keep it active. In that sense, it's probably the best thing you could do. There's some more esoteric stuff, but yeah, it would take another video to explain.
Well,
I mean, there are things you can do regarding the Akasha, or
you can do artwork around the memory to help spark a
yeah.
connection with that. Yeah. If you have some kind of art that you're into, if it's not just words. I mean, words is a form of art too, so drawing a picture, taking a picture and putting a picture in, doing a diagram. Canary says, yes, that happened to me with my thought form. I had no idea what was going on because I couldn't communicate with it or read it, and I decided it was an alien. Got to the bottom of it in the end. Congratulations. Not being tricked by your own subconscious. Good. That's awesome. So Kim Dyer says, hello, everyone, just popping in to say hi. I've not caught this going on while live in a long time. Well, thank you for dropping by and saying hello.
Absolutely.
B says, have to leave all, blessed be. Have a lovely rest of your day. Goodbye, B.
Goodbye, B.
Lul says, trying to explain to my cousin that she doesn't have to be food for others energetically and build boundaries, but she still feels like if she gives and gives, someday it will come back to her. Oh, I'm so sorry. I guess she'll get there on her own someday. Well, the problem with doing that as a method is that usually the people that are willing to drain you to the point of death don't care about you to start with, so they don't care if you're drained. So they're never going to give back. That's the problem with that approach. So Luna says, thank you both. Brilliant advice. You're welcome. Angela says, oof, good healing vibes for your brother hornets are mean, dangerous little buggers. Yes. Luna says, last night when I closed my eyes, I definitely wasn't asleep, but close to it, and I heard my voice and other voices clearly saying a name, first and last, not a name I'm familiar with. We have that happen sometimes.
Yep.
So I'm going to put it on the back burner and see if this person appears somewhere in my life. Yeah, sometimes we look them up and find out that, they are real, or the word has a meaning we're not familiar with, and a lot of times it doesn't lead anywhere. It's just sort of, some random thing just popped in our heads, so.
Happened to me before. I've written them down and things, and I was like that.
And done research.
Seemed to relate to nothing.
Okay. I just picked it up out of the ether, poof, like that, and it's not necessarily related, but sometimes they are.
That was just my experiences, but who knows?
Canary says, I have had a few cases that the spirit didn't want to cross over because they did something wrong in life and fear judgment. Exactly. Most investigations I have done is just saying, no, you're not going to hell. And I've had that happen as well, but in that case, the person thought they were going to go to hell because they were a prostitute in life, and they thought that would mean that they were being judged, and I told her, no, that doesn't happen. And, but who knows about the other kind? They may be going to hell, because if they believe in it, they might end up there. I don't know. Angela says, I wonder where Violet is today. I miss her.
Well, she was chopping
on,
and
briefly.
slicing earlier. Yep.
Yeah. At Linda says, at Adam, yes, well, I'm well, thank you. How are you? Adam says, question, what do nature spirits generally look like? They look like nature. They're different colors, they're different shapes. They sometimes look like the plant that they're a part of. Sometimes they look like a blob of things floating around in the air. Sometimes they have form, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're little sparkles.
Kind of amorphous, so there isn't, I wouldn't say there's one general, look, they just vary as much as anything else does.
Just like people look different. Although we generally have a head, arms, and legs, unless we're missing them.
Right.
If we're missing a head, we don't have to talk, so we're good. But other limbs.
It's true that spirits can take forms that can never exist physically also, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one guy that hung around with me a long time, for quite a few years, was basically a green glowing ball of energy. That was his form. And I think he was Jupiterian. That was the impression.
Blue, but
well, he was green, but that doesn't mean he didn't come from Jupiter. Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah, it depends.
Well, that's the impression I had.
Individuals,
right? That was him, and he followed me around a lot. And then his friend was the very extremely tall Pluto guy. Yeah, they hung out together, so I'm really not sure about their relationship.
Not much gravity on Pluto, I guess. Get to grow tall.
Oh, and we're talking like, he didn't have any skin either. Well, he had skin, but no muscle. He was like parchment skin on a skull. And then from here down, it was just like a cover, like a black cover, kind of like that one spirit that you encountered.
The first time I saw a coyote take a human form, he doesn't have a face. I can't really describe it. I could potentially paint it, but I don't know that that'd be that interesting. But yes, definitely not. You expect a face. The rest of him looked human. His face was just not. That's all I can say.
Surprise!
It wasn't human. It wasn't animal.
Something in between. So Canary says that Adam ever seen Arkham Knight's Batman game's portrayal of Poison Ivy? Nope. Ah. Muo says Angel G, for me it's just a normal night. All dreams I remember are very real. It's been like that since childhood. Angela says, reading the Goetta as a teen, some of the forms were so odd it really scared me. I wondered how they were even put together. They're not. Because they're made out of air stuff. That's why they can look like anything.
Yeah, and I wouldn't trust those descriptions in the Goetta much at all, because I had to go talk to a Goetic demon once, because we had to deal with somebody who was worshiping this particular demon, and I can tell you it was nothing like the description. I mean, I could see where the description came from vaguely, but it was so far off, it was totally inaccurate.
So Angel says, at Lou, it was strange. I could feel and hear very well like real life, but couldn't see well like shadows. So you were like in the spirit realm where ghosts are, because what they see, their astral plane is basically like a gray, foggish kind of thing. And that's what it sounds like from your description. You were probably on that in-between place, between life and death and the veil kind of thing. I've been there a couple of times. I remember one time I showed up there and it was like this long, flat plane. Don't remember anything that happened now, but it was interesting. Violet says, hi, Angela. I was cooking knee-deep in messy food fingers of dinner. Lula says, I see, feel, smell. It's exhausting. Don't sleep well. Angela says, so they were so scared it probably affected how they saw them. Never read the Goetta Alone in the Dark at 14 after reading the Arabian Nights in class. When I meditate, Angel says, when I meditate, I see gray fog sometimes. Yeah, sometimes that's it, and sometimes that is like a precursor to the third eye opening. So not all gray fog is that. And Harry says, I once saw something after I woke up. I wasn't sure whether I was still sleeping. I couldn't look at it. Not because it was horrifying, but it was just so weird. Something akin to a human bird thing. Well, I think that when we get startled, it's difficult to do that. And you don't expect to suddenly see something standing in your room.
Right. Well, and
Kind of like,
if it startles you, it might lend a little bit to the credibility of being an actual being there.
right. Although thought forms can sometimes be pretty scary looking.
Yeah. Well, they can. Yes.
Yeah. Angela says it makes for a real wide awake, scary night.
Yep.
Angela says, oh, I hope the dinner is good. That's probably to Violet. Jonathan says, Ian, when you have spoken about coyote in the past, I thought you were talking about the spirit of the animal. After your shape-shifting comment, I have to ask what coyote is. Is coyote a god?
Kind of. So Coyote is a shapeshifter. He's this version of Coyote is from the more like the old Aztec version, Huehue Coyote, which means old coyote, and he was known to have been one of the few who enjoyed partying with humans rather than disrespecting them and in the Aztec hierarchy, he was one of the people that liked humans, liked to party with them, hang around with them, things like that. So he seems to be more of that type of coyote. So he's got those abilities that the Native Americans usually ascribe to him, such as shape shifting and things like that. I think the whole idea that he's a prankster, I believe, was probably a misinterpretation of his stuff. People confused themselves with his information, and it seemed like he was playing a prank on him, but then that's just my take on it. But yeah, he's more like the old coyote, Huehue Coyote.
So Violet wonders why Arabian Nights is scary. There's a lot of magic in that book.
So,
Adam says, question, can you explain what exactly you have to do to reach the elemental kingdom spheres once you go out of body? I have no astral traveling experiences, so I'm just curious.
reach the earth one, just go straight down into the earth. Reach the water one, picture yourself diving into an ocean. That simple. There are tatwas you can use, and you can scry the tatwas, and this is in the Golden Dawn style. So you scry the tatwas of the element, and then you use that after image of that to enter into the element. You picture it, then you put your gaze on a piece of white paper after staring at the
Atwa.
tatwa.
We
And
actually have a
then-
video on that.
Yeah, and
that
then
you
you'll
can
see
watch.
an after image, and then you enter that with either your mental or astral body, that astral image, and go into the element that way.
So Angela says some of the stories are extremely brutal. Some of the stories of the jinn are particularly terrifying. Yeah, the jinn was a very intense fire spirit over there. Luna says, Ian, yes, I'd like to know more about Coyote too. Angela says, the tale that stuck with me the most was one where a fisherman pulled a vessel of a jinn with a Solomon on it from a lake, opened it. The jinn spoke that it would have granted whoever freed it riches had it been earlier, but since it was so late, it would let the fisherman pick how he wished to die. Yeah, that's all those things about all those things are like tricksters and evil and whatnot. He had to trick it back into the steel for it to calm down and then make a bargain with it to survive. He did and ended up wealthy and okay at the end of the story after a long, weird journey. I was a young teen, so I was pretty terrified.
Yeah, I generally avoid bargains with any type of beings like that, unless you're sure it's a positive being like your guardian or something.
Yeah, this is just one of those stories
Yeah.
out of Arabian Nights, but
Yeah.
Luna says, thank you for answering my questions and thank you all. Blessings for the week ahead. Yes, we're coming up on our hour and a half. Jonathan says, Coyote sounds awesome. I didn't know about him. Thanks, Ian. And Violet says, ooh, laugh out loud. All right, guys. So I guess we've only got a few seconds left, so
All right, everybody. Thank you for all attending, and
yes.
keeping us occupied here enjoyably.
Yes. And getting Ian practicing enunciating without teeth. Since I had to make him talk more than he wanted. So, all right, guys, you know the drill. You can certainly write to us any questions that you might have and everything else. So, we appreciate all the input, and we will see about making other videos. We did some before Ian's surgery, so we have some ready to come out. So we'll have new content coming out probably about Wednesday, I think. I'm going to try for Wednesday in the middle of the week, so you have more to do throughout the week. So, oh yes, certainly email me a Coyote in the Stars, because Ian has a
Yes, please do.
painting in his head he's thinking about doing that way.
That's true.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody. Yes, email what you remember. And I need to end the stream.